everybody. Once again, this is Micah Lieberman with Scope. Going to see everybody in February. Today, I have an interesting call with an interesting person. I just posted an article from Clinical Research News that named the finalists for the Participant Engagement Award at Scope 10 years running. So, Aaron, you're one of those four. Yay. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right, everybody. This is Aaron Horowitz. He is the CEO and founder of Empath Labs. You might have seen his work. He's an innovator. He's doing interesting things. And he's been at Scope. I met you through, I forget that. I don't know if I met you through Joe Kim or somebody else, but we met, and I think you were new at the time.
Total newbie.
So the name of your submission for the Participant Engagement Award is Clinical Companions, Reimagining Participant Engagement for Pediatric Trials. Before we go into all the stuff behind you and all that, like I said, you don't have a standard story. So how did you tell a little bit of the why before we get into the nitty gritty? Give me a little bit of like how you founded and why you founded Empath Labs.
Absolutely. So, first of all, just so grateful to be here, be talking to you, be one of the finalists. I grew up with something called human growth hormone deficiency. So that basically means that my body didn't produce what I needed to grow. I was like 4'6" going into high
Mm-hmm.
school. So every day I took an injection, I took a shot. And it's something that had a pretty profound impact on me that I don't think I fully realized until I started getting older, not really having peers to relate to who were going through the same thing.
Uh-huh.
And so when I got to college, I had actually helped start this organization called Design for America, which is all about using design thinking, going and interviewing people,
Yeah.
right? Solving problems with them. Radical idea, right?
Right. Right.
And our first project was type 1 diabetes and how we might improve the lives of kids who are newly diagnosed. And as we went into patients' homes and as we interviewed them, all of the kids would bring out a teddy bear that they had given diabetes to. They'd inject their teddy bear, they'd
Yeah.
pretend to prick their fingers, right? And you've probably seen this if you have children who are role playing doctor. Well, if you
Yep.
have an illness, you role play a doctor for your illness. And so this is way back in 2011. We created a product for kids with type 1 diabetes. And that's what set off this cascade that, 14 years later, really resulted in clinical companions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, and I have kids, and what you say is true. And it's also a great way to also have conversations about difficult things.
Exactly. It takes the stress out of the conversation and it helps put kids and parents on the same side of the table because they're working together to take care of these interactive tools. So I didn't kind of finish, but the toy that we make, it's called Rufus the Bear. It goes to every kid in the world with type 1 diabetes for free through Breakthrough Type 1, this amazing nonprofit organization. And it simulates type 1 diabetes care. You feed it foods, its blood sugar goes up. You give it insulin, its blood sugar goes down. You check its fingers by pricking it. So we leverage this medical simulation to alleviate anxiety for kids and to make it easier, as you said, to deal with some of this management in the home. And we've done
Yeah.
this as well for cancer with a really cool tool we developed with Aflac called My Special Aflac Duck, also free for families at every kid's hospital in America and in Japan,
Amazing.
and allows you to simulate chemo to help communicate your emotions. And we have some really cool research on this, but this is kind of the foundation that we were working with for about 10 years before we got into the field of clinical research.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Okay, so keep going now. Now go to today, because I think of all these projects as really related because I've seen some of this, the evolution of some of these projects. But specifically, what is your newest project? Because the clinical companion, the one that you are showing, show us the next one because I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk a
So
little bit about this, and I really want you also to talk about siblings and things like that. I think it's so interesting.
absolutely.
Okay.
So fast forward to today, right? We had, prior to getting into clinical research, we have 175,000 kids around the world who are using these tools that I've showed you, right? We learned so much about simulating medical procedures and how we could alleviate anxiety. And we realized that there's an opportunity in clinical research to do this. So we took all of our expertise and we created a platform that allows us to configure one of our companions, an ultra soft stuffed animal right
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
to simulate the same medical procedures that you'll go through in a trial. So we have this virtual world, and in our virtual world is a clinical research site.
Yeah.
And if you're in, for example, a respiratory study and you have to take a daily inhaler, well, you can do that with your companion. You scan these patches, You get the medical tools,
Amazing.
and you
Yep.
get to go through
Yep.
and do your inhaler, do your spirometry, do your PK blood draws. You could do it all with the companion, and it just helps set expectations. It helps learn by doing for all of these
And
participants.
it simulates play, especially
Exactly.
as especially in a modern version of play, like, right? So
Absolutely. And the whole goal is to kind of take these moments of fear and anxiety and reframe them into moments of comfort and joy. I mean,
yeah,
the clinical trials are so challenging for kids and their parents. We're not saying
yeah,
that we're making blood draws fun, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
if we can just inject a little bit of anxiety relief, a little bit of a moment of joy where the child or the teenager gets control to do it themselves,
yeah.
we've seen a huge impact for the pharma companies who are adopting these in their studies.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to say simulating play like it's fun, but I think if I look at some of the earlier kind of clinical trial support tools, it was like a
Mhm.
tablet and a check. It was like sending a kid with a clipboard. It's a nightmare. This kid is not an engineer, right? What
Absolutely.
you're showing is what kids are used to with digital games and using iPads. So I think it really is effective, impressive. Okay, go about last week when we were talking, you talked also about siblings. What
Yeah.
happens in the home? Tell us some of the things you've learned.
So we learned a lot of this in our work with pediatric cancer, and how left out siblings feel, right? The child who has the disease is going to the hospital with their parents. They're getting all of this added attention. And often for young children, it's hard to discern, right, parental attention from love. And so there's a lot of strain that can happen in families when the sibling doesn't feel included. And so
Mm.
one of the cool things about clinical companions for clinical research is that these are tools that allow the whole family to engage in what's happening for the child. So the sibling could practice medical procedures. They could help their sibling prepare for an upcoming visit to the site. Maybe you're going in for 7 PK draws and you're really scared. Well, big brother, big sister, little sister can play along and can get ready and can know, okay, this is what's happening when my parents and my sibling are going to the hospital or going to the clinical research site for 7 hours, for 8 hours for
Right.
this visit. This is what's going on. And I could support them. I don't feel left out. I feel included. I understand, right? We're not taking my sibling out for ice cream for 7 hours. This is
Right.
a really challenging day that I could be a part of.
Yeah. This is so interesting. And I think pediatric trials have a lot of challenges in and of themselves. I think um not every trial is different. Every patient is different. And I think there's different tools, there's different methodologies, and this is really great. And so, what are some of the you've been in oncology? You said you've done diabetes. What else have what are some other therapeutic areas, diseases, diagnoses that you guys have worked in and kind of built tools or capabilities for?
So prior to clinical companions, our product lines were in type 1 diabetes, cancer, sickle cell disease, and blood disorders, and
Okay.
then anxiety. We have a tool called Purble, which is an anxiety tool. You can
Okay.
see it on Amazon. In the clinical research space, we've been able to really open the aperture. So everything from rare diseases like hereditary angioedema to respiratory to hemophilia to psoriasis, we've really broadened the gamut, and the focus really being on what are the medical procedures that kids have to go through? Is it an MRI? Is it a muscle biopsy? Is it a colonoscopy prep for
Yeah.
ulcerative colitis, right?
Yeah.
And how can we alleviate, do really the same thing? Use the language that kids speak, the language of play,
Yeah.
and the current language of play, as you talked about, right? Digital plus physical. And how can we use that to help all of these patients better understand their disease states?
Awesome. This is good stuff. Thank you for sharing, Aaron. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And I'm going to see you in February,
Can't
as
wait.
always. I know. And it was good to see you in Barcelona at Scope Europe too. That was really fun. Um, well, good job, man. Good luck. I'm glad you're one of the finalists, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity and excited to see you all there. I'll be having a backpack with a lot of these, so come
Cool.
find me and tap me on the shoulder.
Right on, Aaron. Thank you.
Take care.